I am disgusted by the fact that in America, black men and black women are so disgusted by each other that you guys are willing to get on social platforms and talk about each other in this way. And you're not saying African American men, you're not speaking on your culture, you're speaking on your skin color. I am disgusted by how comfortable so many black figureheads, so many black platforms, leaders, etc., feel so comfortable talking about your own skin color in this way and associating all your problems with the fact that you carry and you walk around with that skin color. If you have such an issue with being black, I'm sorry. Please go turn into a white person and leave the people that are comfortable being black. Let us be black. Because there are people that can literally enjoy their culture. It's the outside world that decided that they look upon us and we're so different they don't like us. That doesn't mean that we have to treat ourselves that way. Their ignorance does not have to be internal ignorance. And we need to get to the point where we can separate that. Oh, guys. Talk about determination. Oh my goodness, I'm so determined right now. I am determined. I need to get this point across because this needs to stop. And this is specifically, again, and I'm going to keep reminding you guys, this is not pick on African Americans. This is not what this is. However, it is eliminating the self-hating, the self-hating behavior that is right now in the culture, because it's preventing as a whole the ability to move forward in a much more productive way. So it's eliminating a lot of this self-hate, this self-talk, and the disrespect of skin. I think that's what it is for me. I'm so tired of seeing the race that I am associated with and my children are associated with. I'm so tired of seeing it be disrespected. I'm so tired of seeing it be disrespected. And I'm tired of seeing it be disrespected by people that look like myself and my children. Why? Because it makes it okay. It makes it okay for the outside world to say, okay, yeah, this is the type of people they are. I know it to be true because look what this one said. Look what that one said. That's who they are. I'm so tired of it. I'm not saying that you can't have your complaints about your culture. I think getting down to the nitty gritty and admitting that there's issues within your culture, I think that's important. We have those conversations as Haitians. I see a lot of Caribbean people. I see a lot of African people talk about this, especially if you're on TikTok. You'll see like the little jokes that they make, breaking generational curses. I believe we're all on the same page about this. But when it comes to this skin color thing, you guys are holding on to this for dear life. And I keep trying to tell the African American community that this is blackface white supremacy. That's what this is. That you're being racist towards yourself and you're creating an environment for yourself where it is okay to be racist towards yourself and your own kind and your own men and your own women and specifically your own children. But somehow, because I am an immigrant and so many people are xenophobic, apparently, oh no, you're not supposed to speak on that. And it's like, well, who gave you the right? I've seen people say I'm being overly sensitive. No, I'm not. I know I'm not, because I can clearly see how this impacted your black children. So if it impacted your black children, what's to make me think that it doesn't have the possibility to impact mine? No, I might be very particular about the schools I place them in. I might be particular about the people I allow them to hang around. I might be particular about what I expose them to. Till this point, my children have never watched cable. They've never watched what's on cable, TV, etc. You follow? So I can be as intentional as I want to be, but at some given time, all this sheltering that I'm doing when it comes to raising my children, at some point in time, they're going to get out there in the real world. And whatever the real world is looking like and acting like, they're going to learn from that. And I need to ensure, at least do my part to make sure when it comes to the quote unquote black side of the real world, that it doesn't look like this. My goal is within the next 10 years to make sure. Matter of fact, guys, I'm so serious about this. You guys think that I'm going to let this take 10 years? Listen, God be willing. If I can see transformation within the next 1 year, great. My goal is to get to the point where so many black people, regardless of culture, begin to become so free that you guys get to the point where you guys are change agents when it comes to this, that you guys begin to be leaders when it comes to this, because we have to come against this. We have to come against this. We have to rebuke it. We have to stand against it, and we have to shift the culture. And what I'm not waiting on an African American to agree to change the culture. I'm not waiting on that, because what I've noticed is that you're so afraid to be called a coon. You're so afraid to be called a racist. You're so afraid to be called out your name. You're so afraid to be isolated. You're so afraid to be rebuked that you're not willing to do it. Guess what? Hey, I'm here because I don't have to be afraid of any of those things. Why? Because I was already ejected as a kid. I already went through that process, so I can go through it again. I'm perfectly fine. You can't reject somebody that's already been rejected. You can't kick somebody out the club that was already kicked out. It's already happened. So I don't have any emotional ties or connections to that where I have to have genuine fear. And plus, on top of that, I'm a mother. So even if there was a reason for me to fear, that right there, that mama bear instinct in me, is that maternal instinct, is really going to push me. And then I have God who is really making sure, and I know he has my back, and I know he's telling me that what I see is what I see, what I understand is what I understand, what I hear is what I hear. He's already taken me through the process of making me crystal clear on what's going on. So I'm okay. I'm literally positioned right now in a state of, if God be for me, who'll be against me? That is my posture. That is my position. So let's get into this, because many of you guys seem to think that this is just a game for me, or I'm just talking out my behind. Like, this is just smoke and mirrors. The devil is a liar. When I tell you guys I'm as serious as a heart attack, and I'm going to show you why I'm serious, because I need to break this. If there is any other video I can use to break this down to you, let me break this down. Okay. Recently, I don't know if you saw this video. There's a woman named Pearly Things or something like that. But anyway, she has a platform, and I noticed that she's apparently bringing on a lot of Black creators. And she is a Caucasian woman. She is a white woman, right? Should it matter? No. But in this instance, it does. Okay. She has a platform, and on her platform, she has all these Black creators that are sitting here, and they are beginning to talk about Blackness. And the person, I think his name is King Richards or something like that, he's the moderator, and he asks one simple question. He says, does race play an impact? Because I saw this floating on social media, but he asked one simple question. He said, does race play a part in dating? You guys see the question? That's it. Does race play a part in dating? So he goes by to each person and says, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And they give their little reasons, right? And then finally he gets to this woman, Melanie King, and he asks her, does it play a part? And she says, yes. So what I want us to do is we're going to listen to her response. And then after we listen to her response, I'm going to go back to a video I posted on my social media about 2 months ago or so. And it just had some people so irritated by it. Like, who do I think I am to be saying this? And now for those folks that had such a problem with this video, this right here is why I say these things. Now I hope to God that you finally wake up and get it. So what I did, I saw the small clip. I did not listen to this entire podcast because it seems like it's, several hours long. I wanted to get to the point in which she made those statements, but I also want to understand the question. I was able to see the different podcasters, see what they said, and then get to her point, because I wanted to know what triggered her to go down this path, what triggered her to go down this rabbit hole, right? So I want you to understand the question was simple. Does race play a part in dating? So if you've seen this thing circulating around, a lot of people are simply reacting to what she said about Black women, and we'll get into that. But I want to start from the beginning of the question and see her response, and then let's see when she begins to take off.
Melanie, what do you think? How does race affect dating?
I think it affects it, of course. I mean, you can't put your head in the sand. Like, there's some people who just absolutely will not date. I think race and religion are two major components in the world, and absolutely it affects it. Someone will sleep with someone with another race, date another person of another race, but if their family culture, what they truly want, what they want their children to look like, the person they want to be with, they can date another race all they want, but when it comes time to marry, they're going to choose something different. And I think it's hard to understand that. But I do also think in the world we live in today, I think we're more open. I think people are considering different options, especially men in particular, men choose relationship, men choose marriage. And if they meet a woman of a different race, I think they're more open to it. If she's more submissive, obedient, and she wants to serve that man, she has qualities of a wife. She was raised as a wife, and it's the women that he's around or the women he's usually dated. A man will, because the choice is the man's. So I don't really consider what the woman will choose. So yeah, I think a man will choose different. Some will, but some won't. But I think I think that's the positive part of social media, that it's made it more global in terms of understanding other cultures and being more open and seeing examples of other couples from different backgrounds, different races making it work. I think, there's less segregation in general in the world. We're in our own pockets, so that we're homogenous nations. that you see, and people are just more accepting. But I do think it is absolutely.
Now, that response right there was good enough to answer the moderator, right? But as I said, there's something about when you're speaking to Black people in America, there's two ways the conversations are typically going to go. One is going to be centered around whiteness, or is going to be centered around Blackness. When it's centered around whiteness, it's external. It's centered around Blackness, it's all internal. But the internal is just a ripping down and tearing down and destruction. And I keep trying to tell you guys that I'm more concerned with cleaning up the internal versus the external, because the reality is that throughout history, world history, human history, every single human species has always at some point in time had an external enemy. And this is not saying that European Americans are necessarily enemy of Black people or any other nation, but in some cases they are. But at any given time, people have had external enemies. But what has always been more important is how internally they see themselves. That has always been the great divider, okay, between what people say about you and who you know you actually are. The problem, like I keep saying, in America is what the white supremacists or the Black racists think about Black people, and the other cultures and ethnicities and races that they have influence that are non-Black. Black people believe it about themselves in America. A large group, especially specifically the subculture. And they give people like this platforms. No matter how evolved they're attempting to be, they still hold on to this race identity. And now let me show you how destructive this race identity is, especially when it comes to the Black community and all cultures of the Black community. This is about how this rhetoric impacts every single culture of Black people that do not even relate to this. But let's listen to it.
Across the board, Black women are the lowest in terms of dating and marrying. In fact, actually, Black women are high in dating because we give up sex the most. We're for the streets. We're twerking. We're doing the most. We dominate rap in the culture that is very sexual, especially in the U.S. So a lot of men see us as easy targets to have sex with. And we have the highest rate of having children outside of marriage, wedlock. And so men see us as bedwenches, easy to have sex with, but they don't see us as valuable wives. Our culture, especially in the U.S., I don't know how it is in the U.K. I know it's a little different, but our family structure is so broken and so destroyed that we really, the majority of Black women in the U.S., we've been put into a position of just being, sexual, just for a man's sexual pleasure. But if they're going to take a woman serious, that's why you see a lot of Black men, when they become successful, they're not marrying us. I mean, they do. Okay, let me say this. 80% of Black men are marrying Black women, even when they're successful. But there is a huge thing where a lot of Black men are going to other races. Why? And a lot of women don't understand. They say the man is racist. No, the culture that woman may have been brought up in, her submissiveness, in our culture, being rebellious, dressing provocative. It's standard. It is standard. We hate ourselves a lot. We hate our own hair. We want our butts to be the fattest. We pride ourselves on things of being bosses, having the fattest booty, being able to twerk the best, but not intrinsic values that is a wife.
Okay. Before I get into this, let me post a video that I posted 2 months ago that people just thought I was just being crazy. Okay. Let's see if we can bring this train home. Let's see. Okay, guys, hear me out on this. If you're part of the Black community, I would like your support in policing people when they're talking, and I'm not talking about outside of the Black community. I'm talking about people that, identify as being Black, that you begin policing them when it comes to the way that they have certain conversations, right? Meaning, this is what I'm talking about. No more conversations about Black men this, Black women this, Black people this. These conversations are disgustingly toxic and abusive in nature. Like, it is disgusting, guys. I'm talking about pits of hell, scum on the devil's feet disgusting types of conversation. It is psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually abusive to continue to do this. And I understand that hurt people, but this is insane. And especially if you identify as being Black, if you have this skin color, you cannot allow people to go out there and claim your skin color and associate it with every single issue that they have. No, you have to force people into accountability. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about your mother? Are you talking about your father? Are you talking about your brother and your sister? No, because if they're going to use their platform, or if they're going to be in a barbershop or the salon and they're going to be having these conversations, no, don't say Black men, say your baby daddy. No, don't say Black women. No, say your ex-girlfriend. Be specific about who you're speaking about and stop associating with Black people when it's not. And I need you guys to become warriors when it comes to policing this type of behavior and activity outside of you. I don't care where you see it, where you experience it, really checking it and forcing people to take accountability and make it about whoever it is that they're talking about and stop making it about Black skin. You cannot allow your Black skin to be used in this kind of way. See, when it comes to conversation outside of you guys do such a wonderful job at literally policing every single conversation that happens about you outside of you. But when it comes to your own community, your own people, see, this is okay. You guys sit back and relax and get some popcorn. Let's talk about how disgusting we are. Let's talk about how horrible Black men are. Let's talk about how horrible Black women are. This is absolutely insane. I understand that hurt people, but the fact that you guys have gotten to the point where you guys are creating platforms about this, literally creating whole Zoom meetings about, have you guys lost your freaking mind? And you guys think that this is socially acceptable? No, you guys need to check this behavior, check this insanity, and not allow people to think that this is socially acceptable when it's not. I really absolutely do not care. Why? Because I'm thinking about the kids. How is it that you guys know the power of life and death is in the tongue, and you guys are creating these self-fulfilling prophecies about what it is to be a Black man and what it is to be a Black woman. And now you're telling me you're going to have a little Black boy and a little Black girl, and now they're going to raise up in a culture where this is all they hear, all this self-defeating talk about what it means to be Black. And then now you're expecting them to be great. You guys are literally putting weights on their shoulders before they even have the time to actually choose who they want to be in this world. It's absolutely horrible. And now you're wondering why this behavior is repeating itself. Okay, let's get into it. She said in the conversation, Black women in the U.S. Let's start here. She's talking about African American women. She is talking about African American women and African American women culture. Now, see, I already expect African American women to have a problem with what I just said. Wait, don't put that on me. I'm not that kind of African American woman. Trust me, I get it. But here's the point. What she is distinctively talking about, the demographic that she's talking about African American women, and specifically those with the inner city culture. And we need to start becoming clear about these demographics of Black people. Why? Because people get on platforms and even myself, when I was talking about the bullying, what did I say? As I grew older, I learned that there was a specific demographic of African American people that were behaving this way. So I had to learn and now understand that demographics, and now understand that that is not the whole picture. But people today are coming out of those demographics and having those experiences and still talking as if that is the collective demographic. Just because a lot of the entertainment, the arts and entertainment that is exported, not just in America, but out into the world, is being exported out of this demographic. That still does not mean that is the standard and quality of Black culture or African American culture. However, if you're getting on platforms and you're saying that this is what it means to be Black in the U.S., when we have how many cultures of Black people in the U.S., not just immigrant Black people, but let's talk about as I mentioned, this is the book that I'm reading right now. Okay, so this is, again, our kind of people inside America's upper class. So do you think that this is the culture of the upper class of African American people, that this is what they're doing? Matter of fact, I think in one of some of their organizations, or many of their organizations, meaning the upper class, if you're a single mother, you can't even be a part of those organizations. That's a whole different sect. That's a whole different culture. But again, that idea right there, they reject you, you reject them. So we're left with this subculture who thinks that this is the identity of Blackness, when it's really just the identity of their culture. And she said it, other women from different cultures. Now, when I brought this up, people were like, oh, poor little Tink Tink, the little crazy jokes you guys know, poor little Tink Tink, she thinks we're talking about her. She thinks we're talking to her when we're saying Black people, because in America, as I mentioned, Black people tend to use African American or Black and Black people interchangeably. So if they're saying Black, sometimes they could be saying actually the race, and sometimes they could be talking about their culture. You don't know the difference. That's what I'm saying. Just don't use it. Just don't use it. Just like you don't want Europeans or hear any non-black person saying the N-word. I really don't like when people are talking and they say black people, especially black people, because you're making such an absolute statement. And then after that, going back and saying, oh no, we're not a monolithic, but you're speaking like we are. You're speaking like we are. And again, I am claiming my black identity in this way, and because I still understand that I'm seen as a black woman, it's, well, we're not talking about you. Well, who knows that? You guys say yourself as African Americans that when we go out into this world, they see me, they see you, they don't know Haitian, they don't know Jamaican, they don't know any of that stuff. They just see black people. So if then they just see black people, why would I allow you to just go around just talking about black people any way, shape, or form? Why would I be okay, and why would I allow myself to feel comfortable in hearing black people go around talking about their skin color in any kind of way, or labeling it black people this, black men this, black women this? At the end of the day, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, every single culture talks stereotypically about their own culture, right? They might say Haitian men are this way, or African men are this way, or Nigerian men are that way. You know, it doesn't have to be that. Some people might say Puerto Rican men are this way. Some people might say Russian men are this way. Every culture does it, but black people specifically are the only culture in America that talk about themselves from the standpoint of skin color. Why? Again, this is that residue and this is that remnants of slavery. This is that post-traumatic slave disorder right here. So let it go. Let go of this trauma. Stop talking about yourself this way. So to the young lady, Melanie's point, or to the other African-American people, you might feel like, yes, girl, you're telling the truth. Understand though that she just took a brush and she just wiped that all under the cloak of blackness. So now these Caucasian or European American content creators are sitting on their platform saying, man, thank you. Man, she's just like, you're like, the level of comfort, like the lack of situational awareness. That's really what it is for me. The lack of situational awareness to sit on that kind of a platform and to talk about your skin color and the community of people that share your skin color in that kind of way is disgusting. I don't care what you tell me. And then now there's two parts that's going to be said here. Number one is going to be, well, she's not talking about you. You're an immigrant. You're different. Duh, right? Or the other part is, well, she is telling the truth. And that's where I counter and say, no, she's not. No, she is not. And she's not telling the truth within the black community. Not with like this whole idea of, and this is the problem. Why? Because now if you're a young black boy like my son, right, being raised inside of, let's say he grows up and this is the type of information, this type of rhetoric that's going out here, and he's being raised in America, guess what happens when he gets of dating age and he's looking for a certain kind of woman? He might completely bypass black women because he doesn't want to be looking for a needle in a haystack. Because that's really the messaging that's being put out there. Finding a quality black woman is like finding a needle in a haystack. So you know what? Just go to other races because they have these type of women galore. So don't waste your time looking for a needle in a haystack. People that are looking for dating, they're going to go down a path of least resistance. So then if you're out there saying majority of black women are out here twerking, you know, just completely out of order, all of these different things, then guess what a young black man is going to do? I'm not going to allow my black son to be influenced by this nonsense. But it's in the culture. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, it's on the platforms. Like, it's out here, and this stuff needs to be fixed. It needs to be taught that there are healthy versions of black culture, and that has been the problem and why the xenophobia of black America has been such a problem, and not accepting the beauty and all of the different types of black people, even within your own community and culture. Being able to see that there's different ways to be black. If you can't see that there's a different way to be black and you're a black person in America, how do you expect the outer world to see that? If you have such a hard time grasping that concept and then you want the outside world to be able to grasp it, come on now. The change begins within, not without. So from within, you have to begin to see yourself and your community and your skin color, men and women, differently. So then now I was told that, oh no, these conversations are only happening because it's in the US. That's why I'm hearing it this way, because black people don't speak with immigrants in mind. This is what I'm told, right? Black Americans in America do not speak with immigrants in mind. They only speak with themselves in mind. That's why they say black people, because they're only thinking about the African American and black American people, which if you're black American and African American, isn't that offensive within yourself? Like, even if you're not an immigrant like myself, where I'm looking like, how dare you talk about, you know, my skin color like that? Even yourself, are you okay with that? I don't know. Maybe you are. So then I said, okay, no problem. I'm searching the web. It's like God just knows. I feel like the Holy Spirit just put things in front of me so he can show me, no, Michelle. It's like he always gives me another piece to the puzzle to say, no, you're on the right track. So here we go. So we're going to go to another page, and we're going to go to another page, and I'm going to share another content creator with you. And in this video, this specific content creator, he is African American and he is in Africa. And my whole point the whole time is seeing how damaging this way of thinking is. So my fear as a mother is that this thinking can now just be perpetuated. Like I said, this is blackface white supremacy. This is blackface racism. So I don't want this thinking perpetuated. So I'm told that it's not a perpetuation. It's not destructive. It's just black people talking about black people, meaning black Americans talking about black Americans. I'm like, no, it's bigger than this. It's bigger than this. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. You're speaking ill about your entire skin color. That's wrong, right? Okay, then, no problem. So I'm told that that's not the case. So then now this African American creator now, I guess he moved to Africa. Right? So now he's on a platform. I had to figure out what was going on because I thought he was on the African platform because it was so Afrocentric. But really, I guess it's his platform. And he has Africans, right? Real Africans on his platform. So he is in Africa. This is his platform, and he has Africans on his platform. And I want you to hear, so now you can see that this type of rhetoric is being exported. So if you're a black immigrant in whatever country in the world, now you need to see why this needs to stop, because this thing is trying to find its way into your communities and all across the world. Black people already have enough going on. The last thing we need to do is import any more self-hate. We don't need to import any more of that stuff. So I need you guys to shoot this thing back to the pits of hell from which it came, right? And if it don't want to go back to the pits of hell, just leave it in the black American community where they want to keep and hold on to it. But we cannot receive this thing. We cannot. I'm sorry. We cannot receive it. So here we go.
The thing about when I came to Uganda as African American, I didn't really understand a lot of what people were saying, but far removed from Africa, when I'm coming to Uganda, I feel very comfortable because I know Negroes anywhere in the world. Like, I can see exactly. I'm like, okay, that one looked like somebody I've seen before. Yeah, that he looked like Leroy. You know what I mean? So
Pookie. So he goes on, and his name is, from what I see, his name is O'Shea Jackson. And I guess he has two platforms. This particular one that he's speaking on is called Kingada, okay? Or Kangada, I don't know. But he has another page that's more of like a celebrity gossip type of page, okay? So on this personal one, this is where he's getting into like, yeah, we can relate, you know, just, I'm sorry, it's ignorance. Yeah, I see Pookie, I see Leroy, I see this. No, we are different. Stop. Like, I feel like it's so disrespectful to see somebody and not accept the fact that they're different from you. I can understand trying to find relatability, but what's the problem with being able to say, man, that's the way we're different. Okay, you eat with your right hand, I eat with my left. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, so then now let's get into the next part.
are the new generation, the Caribbean immigrants, the African immigrants. And you even see it within their own culture, subculture, leaving us out. A lot of those guys are marrying who? White women. Let's leave South Africa out. We see it all the time. I know you know it. A lot of Ugandan men marry white women, Nigerian women, Caribbean men, white women. And it's killing two birds. Number one, they don't get looked down upon so heavily because of that, because it's not like African Americans where you marry somebody white and you get penalized. But a lot of these guys are doing that even within subcultures in African or Caribbean communities in America because those women are not offering enough value to them. That's why you see so many Nigerian men graduating medical school. I'm talking about Nigerian American, and they have white wives. They have Asian wives. This is right there in America. And it's all because you're being out-competed for value.
Okay, so this fear-mongering has to stop. This fear-mongering by African-American people towards each other, it's one thing when it was towards each other, but now you're exporting this thing across the world. So I want to show you, just like Melanie King, the guy asked a simple question, right? Does race matter in dating? And then she answered the question and then took off, you know, in this self-hate train or like this anti-blackness campaign, right? In the same regard, you guys want to know, and I'm going to put a picture of it here. You guys want to know what the question was or what this topic was about? Listen to this. Basically, it was about, are Nigerian men refusing to marry South African women? This is why it's so difficult to have a conversation sometimes with people that are so brainwashed in this specific culture. And I hope different immigrants, Black immigrants, are seeing this so you can understand. And also African American people that don't agree with this nonsense, because I know there's plenty of you. So here it goes. The question is, why are Nigerian men refusing to marry South African women? Guys, is that a race issue? Or is that a culture issue? Is that a race issue or is that a culture issue? That's the equivalent of saying, why are Black people in Chicago refusing to marry Black people in Sacramento? So at that point, if I ask you a question like that, you're going to talk about cultural differences, right? You're going to talk about the difference between being on the East Coast versus being on the West Coast, etc. And the different cultures and the music. You're going to actually go through the list of things that make you culturally different and thus impact why you may not be compatible. Does that have anything to do with race? But you see, when you have these types of African American people that are really self-hating, like he likes to call them Negroes, they go around acting as if they are speaking, some brilliance about what the issue is. And it could be the most simplest question. And they're immediately going to turn into a why the problem is Black people, why Black men love this better, why Black women want that better. He immediately used that as an opportunity to tear down the Black woman. And you should have seen the African people on that panel. And I'm surprised they didn't check them. And that's the problem. And this is the problem that I'm talking about, when there's that fear of not looking like you're down or not looking like you don't understand the struggle. If understanding the struggle means I need to disrespect myself and my people like this, I don't want to understand the struggle. If understanding the struggle means that I have to talk nasty about Black women, I don't want to understand the struggle. If understanding the struggle means I need to disrespect Black men, I don't want to understand the struggle. Because if understanding the struggle and being down means disrespecting each other, I don't want to understand it and I don't want to be down. Because that is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So then now, okay, so that refutes this whole idea that, it's now just happening in America. Guys, this is being exported. And this man sat on a panel with African people around them, and there was a brilliant African man right next to him. Even he mentioned in the show that this guy was out thinking him, but he still let this go on and happen. He still allowed this culture. So it let me know that his mind has assimilated a long time ago. It lets me know that he's been around enough African Americans to allow this dialogue to happen and not push against it. And you can clearly see this man is brilliant. You can clearly see that he's an intellect, but nope, you let this guy just spill this ignorance all over the place. The question was simply about Nigerian men and South African women. What about that has anything to do with race? There's 54 plus countries in Africa, and they're talking about 2 countries. So that means what? Someone could have said, if it was a productive conversation, well, what women are Nigerian men tend to marrying? Or who do South African women, the ones that are married, who do they find that they marry? Maybe they marry, people from Uganda. Okay, well, maybe they're more compatible. Well, let's look at what makes them more compatible culturally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Even within cultures of Black people, and we need to understand that outside of America, Black people don't look at themselves through skin color. But the problem with this is all the issues in America, Black people, Black Americans talk about, African Americans talk about, it is all centered in whiteness and Blackness. Especially we're in a process now of more, people wanting to get in touch with their roots and all of this thing going. You need to make sure that this self-hate, this type of racism, you need to make sure that this is not being integrated into your cultures. You know how when you're like crossing the border, like they're searching you to make sure you're not going into their country with freaking weapons of mass destruction? This is a weapon of mass destruction, guys. This is a weapon of mass destruction. This type of rhetoric, the rhetoric that Melanie had, the rhetoric that this guy O'Shea had, these are weapons of mass destruction being launched. And in this case, it just so happens to be that they're both being launched at Black women, Black American women. And now it's being exported around the world as if we're all included in this. And before you begin to say, well, I think that we are. Why are you separating yourself? This is why I begin to go down a path of separating and speaking about separation, because if this is an identity that you want to hold on to, and if this is behaviors that you guys want to hold on to as African Americans, we simply can't integrate. Like we can't. It's impossible. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a disrespectful thing. But if you're going to allow, if you think it's okay for your skin color to be disrespected by your own, it's not going to work. The issue of white supremacy has always been using our skin color against us, not our culture, cultures, not our religions, none of that. It has been skin color. That has literally been the system that has been used to disenfranchise, isolate, destroy communities, create propaganda, just basically create a hostile environment globally for Black people. Skin color. Skin color has been the tool and the vessel that the enemy has used to create a hostile environment for Black or melanated people around the world, ebony people around the world. That has what's been used. So why perpetuate something that was literally used as a tool and a vessel and is still being used in some sense in this current day to destroy your culture? It's time to stop beating on each other like this. This is disgusting. And I think the mission of it is to be disgusting. That's the goal of this. The entire goal is to make Black people so disgusted by each other that basically it creates sterilization. That's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal of the enemy, to make you guys so disgusted by each other that not only does it control population, but it sterilizes you. Especially when you're talking about now statistics in the African American community. When you're talking about Black women are the least to get married, she's talking about abortions. And these might be true statistics. Now, this guy O'Shea, this thinking, what if it's now adopted by the entire continent of Africa, this idea of Black men are this and Black women are that, when people don't think this way? What now happens? Now you sterilize an entire continent? The devil is a liar. We got to incubate this thing, isolate it. So then now, this caused me to go into his channel and see, like, is this the rhetoric? Like, how far into Africa has he gone with this rhetoric? And this is when I realized that he knows better. He knows better, but that self-hate, no matter how much better you know, when self-hate is one of the most difficult things to get rid of. That's why I'm so against it early on. That's why, and this is part of the reason why certain communities want to come into the school and start educating children very early on, because certain things that when they are impressed upon you, it is so difficult to take it out. So difficult, extremely difficult to take it out. And self-hate being one of them. So then now I go into this channel and let me show you how this man in Africa 3 years ago now recorded a video, which means that he is crystal clear on cultural differences, but decided 3 years later that he's going to perpetuate this nonsense. And he had a young man on his show with him, which means they know better.
The interesting topic, controversial topic, because me and him are both African Americans, the descendants of, the slaves that came from West Africa. And so we have a unique perspective. The differences between African women and African American women. King, thanks for coming back to the show.
Wait, so there's differences between African women and African American women? Wait, so it's not just race, there's actually cultural differences? Okay.
Brother, appreciate you. Go ahead and tell the people about your channel, brother.
All right, so my channel, I focus on bridging the gap between Africans here and Africans abroad, anywhere else in the world. And I'm trying to make sure that we get the right information because we've been fed a bunch of lies all over the place. So I want to make sure we get Black news and Black information out there to the Black people.
All right, cool. And me and your situation is unique because most African Americans don't travel, especially the men. When they do travel, it's typically to...
That right there is already the issue, because the lack of traveling means that you lack exposure, which means your only exposure is what's around you. Problem.
Name the countries that you think that Black men in America travel to mostly.
I'm gonna tell you, they go to places like Europe, all type of European countries. Yeah. Bali, Indonesia. Everybody want to go to Bali. Yeah. They go to Thailand or they go to Brazil.
Yeah, in DR. I've been to DR. I've been to Brazil.
Okay.
Brazil, we're going to talk about that too. Brazil is working with something. But, me and you, right? Very rarely do I see, Brother Muhammad. He's from Ohio. I'm going to be talking to him tomorrow. But I reach some are not coming to Africa, in your opinion.
Honestly, because they don't see Africa as this exotic fantasy place.
Right. Are not coming, on the continent. But not a lot of Black men come to Africa and want to hook up with sisters on the continent. Why do you think that Black men are not
African American men? That's really what he's saying. Why are African American men not coming to the continent to hook up with sister? If on the news they're looking at, for 10 cents a day you can feed a baby like this one, and then they're being raised around people like Melanie King, who's saying that Black women basically are nothing. Why is he going to go way across the world to go look for another Black woman when he has no understanding, no context of culture? So you guys understand culture in America when it comes to other races and ethnicities, but when it comes to your own skin people, you don't understand culture. Why? Because you spend so long rejecting other cultures of Black people that you miss the opportunity to really see just how different Black people are.
coming to Africa, in your opinion?
Honestly, because they don't see Africa as this exotic fantasy place.
Right.
They see it how the Western media wants us to see it, which is this poverty-stricken, war-torn, terrorist land or something like that.
Right.
So they don't see a reason to come here to, find beautiful women or to find a beautiful paradise.
Okay.
They want to go to places like Brazil, where the largest African population outside of Africa just so happens to be in Brazil, by the way.
Right.
But they go down there because they are told that, the most beautiful women in the world can be found in Brazil or something like that. So that's a paradise to them. Little do they know they got some of the worst crime rates in the world as well.
Yeah.
Not speaking bad on Brazil, but
they do.
They get it in out there.
It goes down. Here's why I probably think a lot of people think like because black women come from the motherland initially, the problems that they have with black women in America, they're going to have those on the continent. And obviously you have a good amount of Africans that live in America. But do you think there are big differences between, let's say, Ugandan women, because you married, but getting ready to marry one. I've dated, some, and African American women. Are there differences between them?
Well, yeah, there's major differences.
Okay.
Major differences. To speak on a few, I could say this, and I'm not disrespecting any black women anywhere.
Okay.
This is my own personal opinion based on the things that I experienced. So
Right.
I don't want nobody jump in the comments and come for me. All right? So I've dealt with a lot of black women in America who have a lot of past trauma.
Okay.
And never dealt with it.
Right.
So that trauma then goes on to other people, and the same thing with black men. Black men have deal with a lot of trauma on a day-to-day basis and
Right.
have dealt with trauma.
Right.
Black men do not open up about much of anything.
Right.
So, hurt people. And that's something I understand anywhere. Now, here in Africa, it's not always like that. I'm not saying African women don't have trauma. There's
Right.
a lot of trauma everywhere.
Right.
However, African women deal with things differently and handle it differently. Plus, I've noticed that Africans are more family-oriented here versus how it is in the States. Back home...
But wait, let me stop you right there, because you said that African women handle things differently. Like, give me an example of what you mean.
So, okay, not all African women, from what I see, are confrontational. Like, for example, if you get into it with a boda on the street, they use their words, you know what I'm saying? And they just, they work it out the best way they can. Or if somebody just so happens to be there, because people will stop and they all nosy as hell, so... People will stop, but they use their words a lot. In America,
Yeah.
somebody about to get to fighting, or if somebody strapped, you already know what's next. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the women, I noticed that too. They're not confrontational as like black Americans.
He noticed that too. But see, years later, he's still trying to spill out that self-hate. Why? Because he so closely wants to relate that he's trying to shape these African people's minds to say, no, we're just alike. Pookie, Leroy, and black women are bad. And these African men are probably saying, I don't know Pookie, I don't know Leroy, and what are you talking about? We were just talking about Nigerian against South African. But they let him do it because people are afraid of these people because they turn into bullies when you don't accept their rubbish.
More of our culture to meet things head on with aggression or sometimes even emotion or even more, sometimes violence.
Facts.
They don't do that. They're not disrespectful in that way.
Facts.
Because the situation is going bad.
Yeah, also, it comes from home training as well.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up seeing my mama fight niggas. Like,
right.
My little sisters grew up seeing the same thing.
Let's stop right there. So your sisters saw your mom how she dealt with men, and so your sisters was like, okay.
My sisters don't use their words, y'all. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Don't come
They
from
put
my
hands.
family, all right?
They
We
put
all
hands.
know how to fight.
They put hands.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
That's
Like
African
here,
American. Right.
African women, are taught to use their words. They're very respectful.
Yeah.
Each tribe is a little different. Each tribe
Right.
has their specialties with certain things. Now,
Right.
the Uganda Kingdom, which is the tribe that my wife belongs to, they have the utmost respect for their husbands, and they are taught that from when they're young all the way up until
Are Ugandans black people? Are they black? Are they black women? Okay.
when they get older. Because one thing that kind of bothers me, but it's something that they do, is that the women, they kneel down when they're serving their husband, or when they're doing something for their husband or something of that nature. When they have to address their husband, they get on their knees and they address their husband.
This man is in the midst of a culture of black women that are raised in such servitude, agree or disagree. that are raised in such servitude that they get on their knees. Now you tell me what race, what ethnicity around the world of women are raised to get on their knees when addressing a man. Now this is not to say, yay, women, get on your knees. That's not what I'm doing here. But what I am doing is this disparity of trying to paint black women one way, as if they're just masculine, as if they're just this and they don't know how to serve dudes and things. I'm trying to show you that it's purely African American culture and African American propaganda. And it's impacting, and they're trying to take this ideology and literally export it all around the world.
That's unheard of in America. I can't even give, you know what I'm saying?
Listen, I'm looking for that. I know you don't like it, but
it's just it makes me uncomfortable because I never experienced anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I was like, yo, what do you know?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm nobody. You know what I'm saying? I'm nobody's master. I'm nobody's owner or anything like that. I don't own anything.
Right.
And I was taught to not.
God bless this man. God bless this man. God bless this man. And I'm so happy that he found, not only does he find a wife that honors him and respects him and loves him, but pay attention. Even he had enough dignity for her to say, listen, I see you as my equal. I see you as my partner. I understand that within your culture, this is how you were taught, but this is how I would like for you to treat me. God bless him. Do you see the beauty when you have a person that is so receptive and all they want is love and respect and these things? And I'm sure he has things that he's providing in that environment, and he still wants to see his wife in a dignity state versus all of these hungry, self-hating people. These self-hating type of people, you can never esteem them enough. You see him? Oh, that's what I'm looking for. You can never esteem him enough. You can listen, his woman has to be out there in the sun building a statue for him because it will never be enough. Some of these men are coming to you as a woman. You have to understand, some of them are coming to you with extreme voids that only God can fill. Just like a lot of women are out here with only voids that only God himself can fill. And here you come, you're trying to pour all your self-love and all your resources and everything about you into that. And they're like, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more. It's going to never be enough because you don't understand how deep and dark that abyss of self-hate is. That abyss of no worthiness or feeling not worthy enough is. So you need to understand when somebody truly needs Jesus.
Women like their property or something like that. So
Right.
that's how I looked at it.
okay. Do you? I mean, obviously, people say that women from Africa, and also other races, but especially in Africa, like if you go over there, the women don't really like you. They're just trying to use you for your money because you got a U.S. passport and all of that. A lot of African American women say the same thing about black men that are going overseas to date. I mean, you are in a minority because you are in Africa getting ready to get married. But for brothers who go out, they're saying that these women don't like you guys. You know what I mean? They're just there to use you because you have an American citizenship or you have money. And that's the only reason why African women are dealing with brothers on the continent. What would you say to that?
Fake news as well. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that's Indian everywhere. Even back in the States, you got girls who try to run it up on some guys, you know what I'm saying? But that goes down to the man. Mm-hmm. It's not about the women. That's the man. If you a sucker and you a simp, it don't matter what country you in. If you in Thailand, they gonna run it up on you. You in Philippines, they gonna run it up on you.
Right.
You in South America or Africa, it doesn't matter where you at. Even if you were in the European countries, and white women will do the same thing to you. All right.
Right.
Go to Germany, I guarantee you the same thing will happen to you.
Right.
All right. That's a fact.
What are some things that the African women bring to the table? I mean, I know the lack of dealing with things more with thinking about it, with in troublesome situations, not being so emotional. But what are the things that you think that African women bring to the table that African American women don't? Outside of the way they deal with it.
That's controversial. All right, so I can't really put one over the other. Right. So I'm not going to put my wife on the pedestal over other women because I feel like we're all African women are the same almost everywhere. Okay. It's just how they deal with things personally. However, I can speak on what my wife does, and she comes from a family of hustlers. You know what I'm saying? Right. So other women, this is one thing in a black family, period, in a black household, we have to learn how to survive, not necessarily hustle, but survive. By the time you turn the age of 18. Whatever you know is what you know, and if you ain't got a job, an education, a college scholarship or something like that, or you on your way to a better thing, you got to get out your mama house, or you getting put out. Right. And that's exactly what happened to me. I joined the Army at 17 actually, and I didn't really have college,
The
you know,
support to
right.
go to do
So
something.
I was like, man, I got to
on
figure
your
out
own.
something because I ain't about
Right.
to hit these streets. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So here it's different. You got, you know, women who help their moms on the street sell corn
Right.
since they children. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they, like I said, they are hustlers. Now, my wife, she's younger than me, and she already got her own business. You know what I'm saying? So that just speaks volumes on as far as like what other people do now. Black women in America are starting to come around. I'm not saying they never had businesses, but I'm starting to see way more than usual, and that's a very good thing. Now we just need that support from the black man, and you know we can be a wholesome community again.
Right. So all in all, would you say that you know, your dating experience in Africa, because you're getting ready to get married, obviously it's more fulfilling what you ever experienced in America?
He's getting ready to get married. Oh, because black women don't get married now. His African American self went to Africa, found a wife, is praising his wife, and is now about to get married.
Yes.
Okay.
100%, because I didn't really have to deal with a lot of the past trauma, like I said.
Right.
And my wife is very understanding, and I'm very understanding. You know, even though there's a language barrier and there's a huge culture barrier,
Right.
she understands that, you know, I came here to embrace who I am as an African man. And at the end of the day, she's an African woman, you know what I'm saying? And she's taught to be respectful. So we had no issues whatsoever, and I only see peace and love between us, you know?
Okay. All right. So, brothers and sisters, that's some differences between, you know, African women and African American women. So it's a little bit of a controversial topic. You know, we still love our people. We're not trying to beat our people up or anything like that. But just the brother's opinion.
So the same content creator now that's on a panel trying to convince these African people that they universally share in the same identity and the same idea about black people also clearly has an understanding of the cultural difference. So why perpetuate this? Why? Because at the end of the day, when you're trying to build or garner an audience and your audience is majority, especially if he's an African American man, your audience is majority maybe African American people, you're trying to speak in a language and in a way that they all understand. And I'm sure that comparison was not comfortable for many African American people. Okay, I get that. But what you're not allowed to do is now take black people and now say this is the way we are. Because what you're doing is you're creating this disgust. You already have a disgust that's already built in within your community for each other. And I understand that you can call it post-traumatic slave disorder, but then it's like, is it really? Because it was not too long ago where relationships were flourishing in the black community. Marriages were flourishing in the black community. Was there another slavery that went through that I'm unaware of? But if you ask me, more of it has to do with casual dating and casual sex than it has to do with post-traumatic slave disorder. And then when you start to talk about each other or referencing their issues from the standpoint of skin color, so Leroy, as he said, Pookie did you wrong and his black people did you wrong. It's this Miss Melanie, you know, growing up in a community and a culture where these girls acted this way on the same street as you, now it's black women. No, talk about your specific street, your specific community, your specific Pookie. I think you guys need to get into the psychology of disgust. When you guys get a chance, look into disgust and you will see what the enemy plan really is and why this thing is trying to be exported. Because like I said, it's trying to get black people to the point where they are disgusted with each other. So I want to play a quick video here and we're going to end where you guys see why disgust is being perpetuated and why you have to come against it.
Disgust is one of our strongest, most visceral emotions. If I simply started describing a rotting, maggot-filled piece of meat, or the smell of a milk carton that's weeks past its expiration date, you'd probably start to feel it. And that's the sort of disgust we're all super familiar with. But this emotion does a lot more than that. The darker side of disgust forms the basis for things like bigotry and xenophobia. And that's why it's really important to understand how this powerful emotion influences us. Scientists think disgust evolved to protect us from dangerous germs. Before there were vaccines and antibiotics, the most effective way to avoid dying from illness was to avoid the people and things that might get you sick. Sure, you have your immune system, but it's generally reactive, takes energy to use, and definitely isn't perfect. So it might be more beneficial to just not need to invoke it. And that's where disgust comes in. It's thought that all of us experience disgust in basically the same way. No matter where you grew up, when you see or smell something nasty, you make that pursed lip face and turn up your nose. Clenching your lips could keep you from accidentally getting stuff in your mouth, and physically recoiling increases the distance between you and a potential hazard. But not only is the experience of disgust pretty universal, what we feel disgust toward is also amazingly consistent across cultures. People tend to be disgusted by body fluids, people who are sick or dead, dirty places, and some kinds of foods, especially unfamiliar or rotten ones. Now, this isn't to say that we always experience the exact same revulsion to the same things. How sensitive your disgust system is can depend on your circumstances. Like anyone who's ever known someone pregnant knows that disgust can be majorly heightened during the first trimester, which may be an adaptation to protect the vulnerable fetus. Plus, not all of our disgust is innate. Some of it is learned. For instance, if you get food poisoning from eating chicken, you might find chicken in general a bit disgusting going forward. Or you might learn disgust from others. Studies have found that seeing someone else be disgusted increases the chances that you'll feel disgust, which might explain why some foods are considered gross in some cultures but not others. In fact, a lot of our cultural norms and taboos are likely rooted in disgust. Social rules like what hand to eat with and how often to bathe probably arose as a way of keeping disgusting things at bay. So disgust serves a lot of very useful biological purposes, but it also shapes culture, and sometimes it goes way too far. Disgust often lies at the heart of what psychologists call in-group, out-group bias. Basically, our tendency to break the world into us and them, and favor the us. Researchers think this is why the thought of sharing your mail carrier's toothbrush is a lot grosser than sharing your spouse's. Presumably, you already have some degree of immunity to any pathogens your spouse has, but the mail carrier could have things your immune system is totally unprepared for. But exactly who your brain considers inside and outside of this disgust circle extends far beyond who you'd lend a toothbrush to. Throughout history, people have equated out-group members to disgusting things, or implied they carried disease to justify class systems, exploitation, and even genocide. And remember how disgust can be shaped by circumstance? Well, that applies to this kind of societal disgust too. For instance, studies have found that people who feel more threatened by disease tend to reject outsiders more. Like if they strongly disagree with statements like, "My immune system protects me from most illnesses that other people get," or if they live in an area with a high disease burden, they tend to hold more negative attitudes towards other racial, geographical, or cultural groups. That seems to be because disease risk strengthens bonds to family and cultural communities. That may, in part, be because having a cohesive support network helps people survive illnesses. It may also reduce disease exposure in the first place. But disgust doesn't just dictate who we reject, it also shapes what behaviors we reject. Disgust is often triggered by things at odds with our sense of purity, and that extends to what we consider pure in a moral sense. People who are more sensitive to disgust generally tend to view behaviors that violate their sense of purity more harshly, something that may ultimately affect things like which policies or initiatives they support. These moral judgments can also be shifted on the fly by getting people to feel unrelated disgust. Like one 2011 study found that people who were exposed to something disgusting tended to make harsher moral judgments for things like stealing library books, shoplifting, and accepting bribes. So, feelings of disgust can influence everything from what we eat to how we treat strangers to how we vote. But those feelings don't have to have that much power over us. One way to mitigate the effects of disgust is to reframe gross things, because how we think about the objects of our disgust matters. For example, if I told you I was going to hand you some chunky, bacteria-filled milk, you'd probably find it pretty disgusting. But if I said I was gonna hand you some yogurt, you're probably totally okay with that. And just being aware that we have these disgust reactions to people or behaviors can help us temper them. So, next time you feel a strong sense of revulsion, maybe stop and ask if your health is actually being threatened. And if not, maybe it's worth letting it go.
I hope this helps you guys understand what I have such a big issue with. I am disgusted by the fact that in America, Black men and Black women are so disgusted by each other that you guys are willing to get on social platforms and talk about each other in this way. And you're not saying African American men, you're not speaking on your culture, you're speaking on your skin color. I am disgusted by how comfortable so many Black figureheads, so many Black platforms, leaders, etc. feel so comfortable talking about your own skin color in this way and associating all your problems with the fact that you carry and you walk around with that skin color. If you have such an issue with being Black, I'm sorry. Please go turn into a white person and leave the people that are comfortable being black, let us be black. The people that can be black and not be disgusted by being black, or be black and not walk around hating ourselves and each other for being black. Because some of you guys are so comfortable with this level of self-hate that it's better off that you transform into a completely different color. Because there are people that can literally enjoy their culture. It's the world that created this problem. And what I mean, it's the outside world that decided that they look upon us and we're so different they don't like us. That doesn't mean that we have to treat ourselves that way. Their ignorance does not have to be internal ignorance. And we need to get to the point where we can separate that. And now here's the interesting part, and I'm gonna leave you with this. That same guy, do you guys remember what I said in my video? Let me bring it back. What did I say?
Take accountability and make it about whoever it is that they're talking about, and stop making it about black skin. You cannot allow your black skin to be used in this kind of way. See, when it comes to conversation outside of you guys do such a wonderful job at literally policing every single conversation that happens about you outside of you. But when it comes to your own community, your own people, see, this is okay. You guys sit back and relax and get some popcorn. Let's talk about how disgusting we are. Let's talk about how horrible black men are. Let's talk about how horrible black women are. This is absolutely insane. I understand that hurt people.
Now, see, I want to point something out to you. The creator that went to Africa and is now running that platform, and then I showed you that he understands the difference between African American and American women. Let me show you how much self-hate he's walking around with and how he's the exact type of person I'm talking about. When you go to his page right now, just scroll down. So that platform that I talked about that Melanie was on, that creator Pearl, also brought on a white supremacist, right? Or alt-right guy, Nick Fuentes or something like that. And he has so much stuff to say, and there just so happened to be an Italian, I guess he's Italian and Mexican or something. And there's an Italian girl that is on, on Pearl's show, and her boyfriend is the King Richards guy that was the moderator when Melanie was speaking. Guys, listen, God, how can you give it to me like that? Like what? Like, just handing me the layups from heaven. Here you go, Michelle. I know you. I know you're going to take the ingredients. I know you're going to bake the cake. I know you're going to make the sauce. I know what you're going to do. So, guys, full circle. So that guy, Nick Fuentes, now, that same platform where Pearl basically has all these black people and they feel so comfortable just talking crap about themselves. Guess what now? Now she has a white supremacist. And guess what the white supremacist is saying to the Italian girl? Oh, yeah, basically how she's not accepted by the Italian community because she's dating a black guy. This guy, now remember, O'Shea, this guy, what did he try to threaten black women with? Yeah, the other women are better. That's why we're going to other races, because they're better than you. They're better than you, right? So then now this King Richards guy, who knows, he probably feels the same way as O'Shea, right? Because a lot of it's covert, that's self-hate. The guy's basically critiquing this Nick Fuentes guy, the so-called white supremacist, is basically critiquing I don't know. I don't pay attention to the guy. He's basically critiquing her and essentially saying like, you don't know better. You're with a black guy. Being overtly racist. And Pearl's just sitting back watching this. Somebody who on her platform monetizes black voices feels absolutely no defense, no need to step in. But when they're talking about black women, if it's an opposing side, she steps in. If they're talking about women, if she's opposing to what's talking about, she steps in. If they're talking about men, if she's opposed to what they're saying, she steps in. So clearly she has a mouth and she knows how to use it. And if she disagrees, she is ready to use her voice and say, hold on, whatever the heck. But this guy, she just let him talk, and then they're doing this back and forth. Oh, she didn't step in that bullet fire. She just let all that racism just flow. She just let it ooze out. And here's the interesting part. The guy O'Shea who sat there in front of all those Africans and said, yeah, black women, you need to learn to compete for us. Everybody else is competing for us. That's why we going to other races. His whole page, guess who it's been? Miss Pearl. Why? For her allowing that to take place. But hold on, I thought you guys like going to white women though. So let's see, his last videos, 1, 2. Let's count how many videos have the face of Pearl that he's done. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the matter of 5 days, 8 videos, all are around this white woman. Oh, because she wasn't the brother lover that you were saying, but she's competing for you. There's the competing. You see how disrespectful you are? No shame. Sumun pagene. The disrespect. How can you feel so comfortable disrespecting your skin color that way and feeling pride in that? Both of them. Black women are the most undesirable women. Shut up. The most undesirable women in the world. Shut up. Your culture is the most undesired culture in the world. Keep it there. Keep it there. And now you as an African American, if you disagree, I agree. You should disagree because you should do a better job at making sure that that culture doesn't represent you. You should stop being so afraid of that culture that you're allowing it to be projected that way. So don't be mad at me. Be mad at all of these black people that come out of your culture that perpetuate it in this way. Stand up against that. Stop trying to kumbaya and hold hands about white people. For a second, pause on that and start that internal healing. And it begins with these type of people, these Melanies and these O'Sheas and all these people like this that have such a fixed image of what it means to be black and what black men are and what black women are in their minds, that they begin to, you guys need to separate this so that young, healthy, young black men and young black girls can actually have an affinity towards each other. But these type of people are creating disgust. And I'm telling you right now, creating disgust amongst black men and black women in America is not going to help your situation. So the ones that want to be disgusted, let them be disgusted. The ones that want to talk nasty about it, you have to police it. But you also have to ensure that you're not supporting those kind of people because they're disrespecting you. And if they're disrespecting you, they're disrespecting your son, they're disrespecting your daughter. They're not creating an environment where a young black boy is being ready to marry your beautiful daughter. Or a young black girl is ready to be a wife to your son. That's not what's being created here. What's being created here is so much disgust that you go elsewhere. And if you're going to run away from your culture, okay. But at least understand that your race has so much more to offer. And that's what I've been trying to say the whole time. Get out of this prison of white supremacy mentally where you only have one idea of blackness, because you will learn there is no such thing as acting black. And until you stop trying to act black, be accepted by black people, you won't get that. You will continue to be imprisoned by these ideas, these thoughts, and these ideologies. There's so much more beauty in blackness. And it begins with you understanding that and seeing that in yourself. God bless you guys. Have a great one.